Hong Kong Direct is your weekly racing wrap with news, views, previews, special guests and interviews, basically covering everything that's happening here in the racing scene in Hong Kong. Here's what's coming up on the show today. We've got part 2 with the Magic Man, Joao Moreira, for my next trick. He's sitting down with Ed Sadler, discussing a big rivalry with Zach Purton, who'll be on board, of course, Beauty Generation, as he returns this weekend in the Oriental Watch Sha Tin Trophy. Great to have you back for Hong Kong Direct. I'm Andrew Lejeune, joined in the studio this week by racing writer for the Jockey Club in David Morgan. And Dave, big weekend coming up with the 2 group races, and you've been out there at track work each and every morning. What's the general vibe ahead of the weekend?
Yeah, the vibe seems to be that obviously Beauty Generation's the horse to beat again. Who's going to get close to him? The Beauty Generation camp is confident as usual. And then in the sprint, we've got a fascinating sprint. Pakistan Star coming out, stepping back to 1,200 metres for the first time since his debut. iVictory returning, full of beauty on the up. So it should be a fascinating day.
We'll be previewing the races a little bit later on, going into more detail. But the sprint, as you touch on, is because the sprinters' ranks, you know, we've got the Mr. Stunnings and Beat the Clock. They're probably the 2 headline acts that aren't there. Mm-hmm. So an opportunity for somebody to really, you know, put their foot forward. Yeah,
sure. And Hawking Prawn obviously is missing as well.
Yep.
Pakistan Star reinventing himself is a big story coming into this. But Full of Beauty could be the young horse coming through that could step up. I guess for me, the big question looking at it, though, is iVictory as good as he was? He's had a long spell. If he is, he's going to be very hard to beat. He's coming back in off a long spell at Chung Fa. So, yeah, we'll see what comes from this.
All right, of course, Pakistan Star's 2 Group 1 wins so far have been over 2,200 metres. The weekend, it's just 1,200 metres. So that a little bit later on. Let's get back to Joe and Ed, though, as they pick up where they left off. Joao Moreira was talking about Thero last week. What a turnout that was. This week, he's talking about his relationship and his rivalry with Zach Purton.
You and Zach Purton a couple of seasons ago staged a magnificent duel to be the champion jockey. You've done it 3 times. Would you like to be duelling again with Zach come the end of this season? Without putting too much pressure on you, by the way, Joe.
But you're already putting pressure on me. But you wouldn't be the only one anyway. As I said, if you ask any jockey here in Hong Kong, would you like to win the championship in Hong Kong? They will all say, yes, of course we do want to win it. But all that I want is to just get to the end of the season, look back and say, yes, I've done my best. And if that's going to be good enough to win the championship, we are going to have to wait until we get there. And one thing I will say, I'll be doing my very, very best. If numbers is going to be enough, good. If it's not, I'm sure I'll be satisfied and happy anyway.
As we stated at the top of the interview, you're on top in the Jockeys Championship at this point in time. Do you feel you're riding at your best? Has the Magic Man got his mojo at this time of the season?
I think I got back my confidence. I'm definitely riding better than what I was in, I would say, 2 years ago. Obviously, a lot of things was going on in my mind. But now it's a different story. I feel confident. I know I can ride well. I know I've got some benefits on my favor, like riding light. And what I'm going to do is just going to try to make the most of it, and let's see if the number is going to be good enough to the end of the season.
Tell us a bit about life as a family man and just what is life outside of racing, because we've seen what you've achieved on the track, but for a lot of people we don't know what life's like for you away from the track.
Okay, everyone else knows that I love playing soccer, and lately I haven't been that much, but for some particular reasons. And I cannot just sit at home and do nothing. I get so bored, I get too stressed. I gotta be doing something. And I keep on encouraging my kids to step out, even if they are normal kids. They love tablets and iPhones. So I try to bring them out. So don't be surprised if you bump on me on some waterfall somewhere around in Hong Kong, or some beaches and being cycling around. This is a beautiful country. The weather we're having at the moment is fantastic. So I try to discover different points of the country, and I've been very, very surprised with what I've seen so far. And that's what we do. You know, we try not to stay at home that much. I don't go out very much to do dinners and this and that, but I'm very sportive, and I love spend a lot of time outside with the family.
You spoke about Beat the Clock before. Let's look at some of the horses you'll be riding this season. Is he the best sprinter in town, or with a horse like him, do you worry about some of the younger ones that are coming through, like an Athero, for instance?
I actually think he's the best horse, best sprinter in Hong Kong at the moment. The up-and-coming ones are promising, but they are not quite there yet. I mean, Athero is a good example. He might be as good as Beat the Clock, or maybe even better, who knows. But at this stage, I think Beat the Clock is already proven, and he's already there. And some other ones that are yet to come, they still got to prove. So, yeah, I would stick with Beat the Clock as the best sprinter in town at the moment.
You had a great season last season with Waikuku, 4 wins in a row, second of the Derby. We saw him first up on the 1st of October. Could he be an international type horse?
He looks like a very promising horse, one of those up and coming, and he's picking up. His last run was fantastic. I will say he was probably 70% fit. Science and I knew that, and we, when talking to the owners even before the race, we indicated whatever he could do on that day, he was surely going to improve, and I think that's the case. I know that was a handicap race, another one coming up, which is gonna be another handicap race. But unfortunately, we got Bearded Generation in town, and he seems to be flying still. He's one of the best horses in the world. It's very hard to beat, and it looks like we are going to have to improve quite a lot to be able to beat him. But if there is one in Hong Kong that might be able to do that, surely it would be Waikuku would be one of them.
One of your most memorable moments here in Hong Kong was when you clean swept the 4-year-old series with Rapid Dragon. I know it's a fair way out, but what Champions Way did last season with you on board, could he be a 4-year-old series horse, do you feel?
I really believe he's capable. I mean, he's done everything that you could ask him to do, and he coped it in a way that you would be very impressed. He has climbed in rating very quickly, and usually horses that do that fast means that they got quality, and he seems one of them. The way how he travels during the race also indicates that as more ground he takes, better it's gonna be for himself. So yeah, we're looking forward to see if he's going to be able to make it to the Derby, and if he's sound and happy. And I actually think at the moment he will be the favourite for the Derby.
I don't think he's too far off the mark either there, Dave. As they finish, we might as well start with Champions Way. Did pretty much all that was asked of him last season. Looks like a serious horse, just waiting for him to return now. Yeah,
sure, and he trialled the other day. He was a bit flat in the middle part of the trial and then ran on nicely like we know he can. He showed last year that he's got quality. To do what he did as a 3-year-old, to win that Group 3 race at the end of the season was pretty impressive. You're talking Rapid Dragon territory. So we'll see how he comes back and how he's improved and what he does.
How do you find, Joe, because you'll be out at track, we're chasing him down for quotes and stories, and as everybody is, how do you find him on a day-to-day basis?
Dealing with Joao Moreira is brilliant. He's happy to talk. He'll take time out, even if he's under pressure to go and do different things. He'll take time out and talk. Very accommodating, and to be fair, all the jockeys here are good. Yeah. But Joe, I find Joe great to deal with. He's very good. Now, he mentioned there that he thought Beat the Clock was the best sprinter in town. He said Athero, special mention for Paul. That was actually recorded though before Athero broke the 1,000-metre track record. He might still stand by those thoughts, but Beat the Clock does set the benchmark at this point in time, I think. Exactly. He's the champion sprinter. Everything else has to come up to him. Joe knows that. But I spoke to Joe this morning and I asked him about Athero. Was he asked to ride him in the upcoming Group 2? And he said he was, but he felt that he had a commitment and a loyalty because he told John Size that he'd ride his horse. But he said he basically indicated that he does think Athero's a very good horse. Well, Zach Purton sent out a cheeky tweet last week asking his followers essentially, but the racing public, if you had the choice, who would you ride in the sprint this December? Now, he was limited to just 4, so there might be some extra names added in there. This was the result, though. This was after Athero's track record run. 63 for him. Pakistan Star gets a high return as well. Little Giant and Regency Legend, not much support for them. No. And honestly, that was after Athero had won. So
a bit of emotion,
it was
probably,
very
as well.
fresh in people's minds what he'd just done. It's interesting the ones he missed off the list.
Yeah.
You put Mr. Stunning in there. You can't discount him. He's won it twice. Obviously beat the clock. So yeah, I think it was a little bit tongue in cheek from Zach.
Yeah. I didn't vote. If you'd voted though, which would you say?
It's a tricky one.
I think Regency Legend got a low vote. I'd have been, if he was a spare ride, I'd be putting my hand up.
Yeah, well, I mean, Danny Shum's adamant that this is a Group 1 horse. He did nothing wrong first up. I think just off the back of what Athero did, it was just so stunning. And all the hype and the talk around him. Is it hype? Is it real? We'll find out in time. But I can understand why so many people went for Athero. All
right, OK, plenty more to discuss and plenty more water to go under the bridge before the big sprint in December. There's plenty more coming up for us as well in part 2 of the show. Pakistan star in the Premier Bowl, back to the 1,200 metres. That was him winning over the 2,400 metres, half the trip. And Beauty Generation, can he do it again? Looking for 11 straight. It's the Oriental Watch Sha Tin Trophy Day this weekend. 2 Group 2 contests, both run under handicap conditions. We're going to preview them now. Starting off with the main event, the 1,600-metre Sha Tin Trophy, headed by Beauty Generation. Draws perfectly in Barrier 2. Rise High returns from Barrier 7. Southern Legend, a good run behind Beauty Generation last time out in 5. Glorious Forever back, Eagle Way back. Singapore Sling first up as well. Lyle Hewitson from Barrier 10. Waikuku finished 3rd behind Beauty Generation last time out. Kaiying Star was 2nd. Insatiable returns and Nothing I Like More from Barrier 3 with Matthew Chadwick in the saddle. We've made our way to the touchscreen here. Dave Morgan, racing rider for the Jockey Club, is still with us. Dave, to have a look at some of these key races. I mean, Beauty Generation is clearly the one they've all got to beat here. And just on the back of his last start performance, it's a case of how do they improve and get past him. Kaiying Star actually made a good fist of it in taking the race to him last time out. This is Beauty Generation in front as we pick it up. Kaiying Star, this is 1,400 metres, remember, as well. Waikuku in behind. We've got Southern Legend, actually closed off quite strongly. And Nothing I Like More further out.
Yeah, this was a brave effort from Kaiying Star. He went out and tried to make it. Didn't have the guns to do it. Beauty Generation is just... We all know there's not much more we can say about him. He's brilliant.
It's almost mechanical now, isn't it? The way he runs and wins his races.
He knows what he's going to do. He knows the layout of this track. It's like it's clockwork. And they're all playing catch-up. So on Sunday, they're going to go out and they're going to play catch-up. And can they get closer? Can they beat him? We see Southern Legend really flying at the end there. Waikuku, as you said, put in a good run. But everything is playing catch-up with Beauty Generation. Yeah,
Kaiying Star might argue he could improve with a step up to the 1,600 metres. Do they take it to him again, do you think?
I think they will. I had a brief conversation with Tony Cruz this morning, and that's where he suggested that Kaiying Star will go out and race from the front. Much like his sire Cityscape used to do.
Exactly, yeah. These are some of the stats for Beauty Generation. So 16 in total, 10 consecutive. And interesting, his rivals are 0 from 24 against him. They've lined up in the past. He's on a career high mark of 138, and that prize money record gets ever closer to the 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the rival, these are pretty imposing figures, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at that thinking, oh, this is going to be tough, and everyone knows that. But it's interesting looking at it with the big weight concession that he has again. You've got the likes of Tony Millard. He knows that Singapore Sling ran a really good race against him last season, first up. And so there are people there looking at this thinking, maybe today.
All right, well, let's have a look at Singapore Sling in action. This is back at the trials because he is first up here. The other horses to take note of, though, Glorious Forever, who, he is a front runner, but he's also a 2,000-metre horse also. Simply brilliant. Even his most ardent fans would be suggesting he's probably looking at a supporting role at best here. And Singapore Sling. He's trialled on the all-weather. He's trialled at Happy Valley as well and looked good doing so. He comes in fresh.
Yeah, I personally like this trial. Glorious Forever, I think it's going to be too short for him. But Singapore Sling, I thought he closes off nicely enough. It wasn't a bad trial. I think you'll see him come on a lot from this and I expect that he will be in the shake-up for the minor placings.
All right, and just watch Simply Brilliant run the race of his life as well after that minor swipe. I just had it. We can have another look at him here. This is Rise High at the back end of last season. Now, Rise High is, I think he's quite a versatile performer, and Casper Founds will have some options with him, but ultimately I think he's probably looking maybe at the 2024 long term as opposed to 1600.
Yeah, for sure. You see, he takes a bump there. It doesn't affect him. He ran a really good race this day. There's no question he's a very good horse. Casper's always held him in very high regard. But when we're looking at December, that's the big target. It's going to be the Cup or it's going to be the Vase. And you're thinking first up, over a mile against this quality of opposition, against Beauty Generation. It's going to take a stretch to think that he can beat him. That's
Savvy 6 in the yellow jacket there as well, flashing home, running the big race last weekend as well. So Beauty Generation is the obvious tip, and I'm assuming that you're going to say that he's going to win, but have you found another angle at all as far as the race is concerned? Yeah, I mean, Beauty Generation's the one. But I do like Waikuku. John Sizer's horse, he ran a blinder in the Derby last year when he was second. He's come back to the mile, and he looks like, profile, Joao Moreira said this morning, again, when I spoke to him, that he thinks that perhaps this horse is a miler. His profile might suggest so, his pedigree suggests he may be, and I think that first run over 1400 will set him up beautifully going into this race. He's going to be fitter, he's going to be better. Joe said in the interview 70%, he told me this morning 75%, but whatever, he was short of his best, and while the others you could say can improve as well and can have sharpness and fitness off that run, I think Waikuku, we can see another good run from him. All right, dangerously, that's Mike Quinella as well, Beauty Generation and Waikuku. All right, into the Premier Bowl then is next for us, 1,200 metres, again a handicap. I Victory returns, former Chairman Sprint Prizer and a Rattan who made all the National Day Cup. Pakistan start, one of the most talked about horses here in Hong Kong. Wishful Thinking, also coming out of the National Day Cup season's bloom. Had a little bit of a freshen up. Full of Beauty won down the straight last time out. Good standing back, and Gunnison, another one for John Size, who also ran in the National Day Cup down the straight. We'll start off, though, talking about Pakistan Start, who does take up a lot of column inches and a lot of people's talk time as well, for a horse that hasn't actually won for over a season now. Yeah, and over a mile and a half. Exactly. And he's coming out over 1,200. For the first time since his debut, which set the racing internet on fire, if you like. So this is going to be intriguing to see what he can do. His barrier trial recently, he looked really good, clocked a pretty decent time. Just scoots across that dirt surface and loves the 1,200 metres, it seems, in those conditions. Now, under race conditions on the turf, are we going to see the same thing? And it's just a question no one knows the answer until he actually runs. Yeah, all right. Well, it's fascinating as far as his inclusion here is concerned. Let's have a look at some of the main players, though, starting off with I Victory. Now, he climbed the ratings ladder very quickly to come out of handicap company into a Group 1. This is the Chairman Sprint Prize from a couple of years ago, mind you, but this just shows as an example of how brilliant he can be. Yeah, I mean, let's break this down. He's got a European champion sprinter and Japan's champion sprinter in there. He's got a future Hong Kong champion sprinter. What he did here was fantastic. Off a Class 2 win at Happy Valley. He's been off a long time. Hasn't raced since January. He's been up at Chung Fa. Comes in fresh. Now, last season he didn't perform to his best, but his best race was his first up run when he ran second. So you've got to think perhaps he can put it together. All right, OK. This was the key lead-up race last year. Hot King Prawn came out of the National Day Cup to win the Premier Bowl. Full of Beauty won this race for John Size and Joao Moreira. In behind, Wishful Thinking was a little bit unlucky. He got held up for a moment or so. Gunnison, the other John Size runner, and Rattan, who made the running, and the horse that is stablemate got caught in behind. Wishful Thinker. Yeah, I think there was not much wrong with this from Full of Beauty. Joao Moreira, to paraphrase him again, has said that the horse just got found out a little bit over the 1,000 for the first time. He wasn't quite sure what he was supposed to do. And he'll have learnt a lot from it. And the 1,200, we know he's got all those wins on the board over the course and distance. He's got to be better for this run. Wishful Thinker finished off really well there. You've got to consider him. All right, so young horse up and coming with a lightweight on his back as well. Who's the tip then for the Premier Bowl? My brain says Full of Beauty, but I'm going to be silly and go Pakistan Star. Right. I just think it's fascinating. And if he can show that dirt trial form, the way he relaxes and runs, if he can put that together with that brilliance we know he's got, even at this short trip, perhaps
we could see something special.
All right. I'll throw in Seasons Bloom into the mix as well. I think you can run a mighty race. As far as the diary is concerned, then don't forget 12:15 start for the Oriental Watch Shartin Trophy Day. 2 Group 2s this weekend. Happy Valley at Wednesday, and then a dirt meeting next Sunday. 9 races on the all-weather. We are done. Many thanks, Dave. Enjoy the weekend's action.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that's the show. Thanks for watching. We're going to leave you this week with a little bit of fun as the Rugby World Cup continues. Here's some of our jockeys showing off their rugby skills.
Today, we're at the Hong Kong Football Club. Happy Valley Track surrounds us right here. We've also got some incredible buildings looking over us all. Today, Nick, we're here for a different kind of jockey challenge. You've seen the lads warm up. What are you expecting?
Yeah, 3 very, very good athletes. I've seen them throwing the ball around. They look pretty impressive, but it's going to be interesting once the pressure goes on and the whips are cracking.
Righto, mate, let's get into it.
I'm Regan Ballas, and this year's 2019 Rugby World Cup, I'm supporting the team from Down Under.
I'm Grant Panikak, supporting the Springboks at the 2019 World Cup.
Chad Schofield, supporting the Boks or the Wallabies. Take your pick.
Hey, listen, come back.
Congratulations to this year's rugby winning jockey, Mr. Regan Bayliss.